What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, and this is Mary, back for more RPG horror stories with us. Mary, are you okay? Guys, I think Mary is drowning. Either way, while she gets undrowning herself, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the first RPG horror stories for today. DM causes a player to leave his game because he hates her character. The title is the TLDR. This happened a couple of years ago, and I can't find any notes from the campaign, so apologies in advance for lack of detail. Relevant characters are the DM and a player I'll call Sam. Sam's character had a companion that was basically an upgraded familiar that got its own turn in combat and had its own character sheet. DM put up with it, but he really didn't like her not quite a familiar. This would butt heads over what the companion should and shouldn't be able to do, and his distaste of the character was becoming more apparent as time went on. I really don't understand why DM would be upset. I mean, that's literally one of the warlocks. Careful with the antlers, Jesus Christ, you gotta poke my eye out.
Oh, sorry.
Nah, you're fine. Like,
you
warlocks...
need to stick like marshmallows on top.
There's actually a Pact of the Chain feature for Warlock that allows you to use an actual familiar in combat. And besides, there are also a lot of other subclasses in D&D that allow you to have a pet familiar or a pet combatant in combat. I mean, unless it's like some sort of other overpowered familiar that you're letting the player use, then yeah, it could be definitely a problem. But I mean, the familiars that Warlocks get, at least, if I remember correctly, Pseudo Dragon has like, what, less than 10 health? Maybe around 10 health? They're extremely squishy and are unable to do anything in combat. They can be clapped down super fast. They just come with some kind of cool abilities. I know the imp comes with some really good ones. The tension peaked during an encounter where Sam's companion did something that got on the DM's nerves. If I remember correctly, it got the killing blow while Sam was on the other side of the building, which prompted him to turn to her and say verbatim, "I hate your character." I remember that everyone got pretty quiet after hearing him say that, and Sam was downcast for the rest of the session. Wait, you hate the character for getting a winning kill or like last kill? You have to understand that if it's a warlock companion, if it's the warlock familiar, those guys don't do a ton of damage at all. They do very, very, very little damage. They're pretty squishy. They don't have a lot going on for them, so the fact that they're able to even do anything at all to help out a little, that's not a problem. I mean, like I said, unless the whole situation is the DM allowed them to have some sort of overpowered familiar, and then they decide that they dislike that, well, DM, you kind of did it up for yourself, you know? If you have an issue with the player over anything, familiar or what have you, why not just talk to them out of game? Hit up on Discord. Ask them, hey, this familiar thing is a problem to me for whatever reason. Why don't you talk to the player about it instead of just straight out be like a pouty little baby at the table and just be like, I hate your character. Nobody is forcing you to like or dislike anything. Like, just talk out of game, for real. Sam left the game after that, and she and the DM didn't talk for a long time. To my knowledge, they're on good terms now, but haven't played at the same table since this happened. Maybe not the absolute worst possible outcome of events, but it was kind of weird to watch a friendship crumble over a D&D character. Edit. For people who are curious, this was a 5e game, and I'm now 90% sure she was using one of the summon spells from TCE. Oh, a summon spell from Tasha's. It's like when you have like the summon beast or whatever. Or like summon Shadow Fiend.
Oh.
It's like summon beast, shadow, summon beast, summon Shadow Fiend, summon Fae, that kind of thing. If it's that, then I mean, those guys aren't familiars. You like summon them, they stay for like an hour and that's it. But if the DM really had a big issue with the player over this, if you have a problem with anything your player is doing, talk to them. Don't just, you know, put them on blast to the table with, I hate your character, because that's counterintuitive. That doesn't solve anything. That's counterproductive. I think we already covered too much of the story. Let's go ahead and continue with the next one. A DM tries teaching me his weird ways and makes a double trouble with his girlfriend. This post was tagged as cheating. We're not sure if it's like cheating as in like romantically cheating or cheating in a game, but I guess we'll find out.
I mean, it says girlfriend. It's definitely it's definitely that kind of cheating.
You think so? I mean, it could be.
I'm invested. I need to know.
Let's see. So this happened a year ago when I was still new to the world of TTRPG. A tale of me trying to get head on into DMing, falling, and picking up bits of trauma on the way. Only by writing this, I realized how much this whole thing has ruined my TTRPG experience for years, even parts of my life outside of it. It might be a longer story though, so grab your snacks, drinks, and get comfortable. Enter the cast. The DM, let's call him Phil. His girlfriend, let's call her Jenny. My girlfriend, Miri. and myself, the naive newbie DM role player I was back then. Miri had just introduced me to D&D and I was hooked. I absolutely love storytelling and the roleplay aspect of TTRPG more than anything. So I registered in a forum, found some group, played a couple of one-shots, then came the inevitable. The storyteller inside me wanted to DM my first game. Big ideas, own worlds, aka a lot of homebrew. So I posted in that forum something about new DM wants to try out stuff, and sure enough, I found some people to join. Among those people were Phil and Jenny, adding to it that both were about 10 years older than me. Phil told me he had long years of experience in being a DM and a player, and asked if I could use some help getting my bearings. I accepted because heck yeah, I need advice and guidance. So he and his girlfriend joined the campaign Discord server, and shortly after, we had a session 0. So far so nice, everything goes well. I DM a couple of one-shots before going into the actual campaign. This is where the problem started. Phil, while letting me DM on sessions and never talked over my decision or did anything to interrupt the game flow, his mindset was way out of the way. He believed that he had to defeat his players and that it was all DM versus player, that a DM had to do everything to stop the players from achieving their goals. He criticized a lot of the game sessions, my stuttering, that I took too much time and had too little descriptions. New DMs, does any of that sound familiar? Yeah, it takes a bit to get your bearings around the thing, but the only problem I find right now, biggest problem, is the fact that this guy has a player versus DM mentality. Already a red flag. These are the kind of DMs that see the players as a competition. That see the players as not other people at the table, but as targets that need to be destroyed and defeated on the battlefield, that is the TTRPG table, which is extremely silly and goofy as hell. And I don't recommend taking lessons from somebody like this that has a specific DM versus player mentality. DM versus player mentality is probably, in my opinion, one of the worst red flags you can have for a DM, and it's a perfect recipe for an RPG horror story. As somebody who dealt with the DM versus players mentality DM, both Mary and I have, we can both tell you that these kind of guys are not fun.
Oh, disgusting ass, teeth and breath on my face. Yeah.
Wow, Mary went ghetto when I cough on her. Disgusting ass, tiefling breath on my head.
Disgusting ass, getting your gems all over me ass.
Jenny was the more overly problematic person in the group. She did things like interrupting the game, starting a full 15-minute long argument whether a check should be perception or investigation, simply because her stats investigation were higher. Phil had to cut her off, but did text me after the session about how right Jenny was. In that same session, Miri's character shot a firebolt across a dark corridor to lighten it up somewhat for those without dark vision, or despite traps if there were any. Jenny, however, started another discussion about whether or not that should be possible with that kind of spell at all. Again, interrupting the flow of my anxiety got so bad that I had to leave a few sessions early. And here's where I messed up. I did so without warning. I thought I texted not long afterwards and apologized. It did understandably put some players off, and I again received criticism from the same people who made me feel that anxious in the first place. You texted not long afterwards and apologized, and then you received criticism for what? Apologizing? Was you apologizing wrong?
I don't like, I mean, like, D&D, it's supposed to be stuff where, like, you get to do whatever you want. You know, if there's kind of walls you can't cross, the DM will say so. But if the DM says it's alright, then it's alright. You know what I mean? So, like, they shouldn't be getting in the way because it's her, like, world she's created and stuff that she wants. If she wants Fireball to light up a room, I think that's a good idea because it's light. What if there's wood nearby? You could just set it alight with it because it's just fire. Like, it lights it up. If they want to do it, do it.
I do have a problem with a player arguing with the DM about using investigation or perception. If a DM asks you to roll perception and you ask, can I roll investigation instead? And they say no, all you have to do is just roll perception. Simple as that. Give the DM the benefit of a doubt and don't just assume they're choosing a wrong ruling for the sake of choosing a wrong ruling. That there's a purpose with them asking you to roll specific stats, like perception over investigation. If you have an issue with someone's ruling, talk to them after the game, not during the game. Don't hold people up for 15 minutes for Christ's sake. Meanwhile, Phil asked me to join his own ongoing campaign. He, with Miri present, praised the role-playing skills of his own players and that he didn't believe I was on that level yet, but that he'd give me a chance, that he would do me a favor, etc. I, eager to play in more and more, accepted the invite. enter more problems. Doing somebody a favor because you don't think that at like a great role-playing level. What sort of role-playing level do you expect? Like Oscar acting of some kind? It's all just math rocks and playing pretend as characters. Maybe the guy has like a Critical Role-esque standard of like voice actors and everything that just really get into roleplay or something. Who knows? But I want to take a guess that this guy just blowing smoke up his own ass about how good his role players are and how good his game is and everything.
He just wants to show off, basically. Like, oh, you've just started, so you don't really know anything. Come to my one, because we've been doing this for a while. It's so much better.
I'm not a great role player or anything, but I'll do you a favor this time around, and I'll teach you the ways of proper roleplay. Ugh, already sounds so slimy. I don't know, I don't like this guy. I don't like Phil. We did have a session 0 for my character, an elven druid who he brand-marked as follower of Tiamat. Yes, that Tiamat, without her knowing that he is evil. So her goal that he made up for me, more or less with my consent, I thought was kinda cool, but also had no clue what was appropriate and what wasn't. Was something along the lines of retrieving something that had been stolen and to create chaos and destruction. I don't quite remember the specifics, but it did put my druid into a really trippy situation from the start, since Jenny's character in that group was a lawful good cleric of Bahamut. And the first question she asked my druid was whether or not she respected the gods. Now, I realized that Phil essentially put me up to the unknown, innocent, secret antagonist of the group, possibly to further implement the mindset, DM versus player, into my head. Or maybe he just wanted to see who would win, me or his girlfriend. More on that later. Helping somebody put together a character is fine and all, but if you just hand fist some sort of a plot point where it's okay, now you're a worshiper of Tiamat, and you gotta be pinned against this worshiper of Bahamut and stuff, and then you basically have to be, because like Tiamat's like naturally supposed to be like evil and stuff, and Bahamut's supposed to be like lawful good, I think, maybe? I'm not fully sure. I recently watched a Dungeon Dad video, and he was talking about dragons, and I think there's a bit of like Tiamat and Bahamut don't like each other, something like that. Trying to hand fist somebody into a specific lore without like getting the consent or seeing that cool, that sort of thing, don't do that. Just don't. Imagine, Mary, if you decide to make another druid character, but I force you as a DM to be a worshipper of a flying spaghetti monster. And one of flying spaghetti monster's great acts was to, well, that's the thing, was to devour every single orphan child in the universe. And now you will force to devour every single orphan child in the universe. The fact that you're hesitating so much and considering this is kind of scary.
I don't know, do I get free spaghetti for life?
No! You devour orphan children.
It's not worth it.
Oh, and the no consent talk. I'm now very adamant about consent talk, what triggers everyone has, etc. Back then, I admit that I was kind of blind to those things, mainly because I didn't realize how much it matters and impacts your well-being. And somehow Phil left that bit out of his teachings, which became very clear in the first session I got introduced into the group. It was a rescue mission since my druid was captured at the end of my session 0. Fair enough start. What did make me extremely uncomfortable though was that he texted me privately mid-session while he was describing the group following the noises of interrogations and loud noises. He demanded for me out of nowhere, pretend or roleplay as if you were being tortured. I declined, remembering when I said no consent talk? Yeah. So apparently my roleplay skills weren't strong enough. If you want to run a specific scenario with your player and you want them to know ahead of time what's coming up, don't just let them know like 5 minutes before they're supposed to, the scenario's supposed to come up. Maybe check with them ahead of time, ahead of session. Also, yeah, session 0, check it for these kind of stuff, but figuring out whatever the phobias are, whatever it's like do's and don'ts and everything. That's a healthy thing to do. Always do session 0. It really helps kind of figure things out ahead of time and figure out what's okay with players to do, what's not okay with players to do. There are ways to do scenes and different darker topics and teach RPGs tastefully, and the only thing you're trying to do when session 0 is figuring out what is considered tasteful in that situation and how to handle it. Now for the double trouble part of things out of game, from Miri's warding, who's helping me to remember and write those things down, Phil wasn't interested in teaching me how to DM. He wasn't interested in anything besides grooming me.
Well, that took a turn.
That took a really strong turn. We chatted quite a bit, and I guess he seemed nice enough. which got Jenny fuming. For example, we're playing games other than D&D, like Guild Wars 2. Jenny had tried for months to get Phil to play with her. Now, I suggested it, and he immediately said, yeah, let's do it. I remember the depressing silence between the two during the voice call, and they're constantly reassuring that they wouldn't fight, and it's all just friendly banter. Overall, Jenny was just really mad at me because her boyfriend was paying more attention to me than to her, while he put her and me up against each other, bringing it full circle. Eventually, Miri, myself, Phil, and Jenny had a physical meetup to talk things out, which meant that we ate food at McDonald's while we talked about how amazing of a DM he is, how he forces players into the time-limited dungeon, and how that's all totally chill. I remember coming out of that meeting stunned, confused, and uncomfortable. Contact broke shortly afterwards, and I never heard from either Phil or Jenny again.
I just found it funny how she worded, like, which meant that we ate a food at McDonald's. Like, what do you mean? It's like, we had a physical meetup, which meant that we ate food at McDonald's.
So the meeting was just Phil talking about how great of a DM he is and how he really showed the players what for with a timed dungeon, and then y'all ate McDonald's together. That doesn't sound like a meeting at all. It really doesn't sound like a meeting at all. It sounds like Phil just basically stroked his ego and that's it.
He's stroking more than his ego.
Oh, please, no, don't go that way. The other players in the party stayed for a while though, and we had 1 or 2 sessions of the campaign I had in mind. But it all fizzled out, and I just got more and more anxious of TTRPGs in general. Then life happened, and It's All My Fault has become a core fear of ours, thanks to Phil, Jenny, and several other people who came after. Writing and posting this now feels like a relief. I guess the takeaway of this mess of a post is something like how important informed and understood consent is from all parties involved, and how roleplay shouldn't leak into private life and vice versa. After long years of break, I'm finally back into TTRPGs, trying to pick up GMing again, but first and foremost, looking to play, because D&D and other role-playing systems are amazing. Thank you for reading, I hope it was at least somewhat entertaining. Allison. Edit. I just want to make more clear that I had no interest in dating him at all. Didn't even think there would be anything like that involved. Jeez, was I naive? I gotta be honest, I feel like there's a lot of context that is missing from this story. They talked about wanting to DM, finding Phil, having Phil be too harsh of a critic and Jenny being too harsh of a critic, and then bam, grooming, and then it kind of stopped. I feel like there's probably like a huge chapter that is missing from this story to really describe what exactly happened and why your girlfriend Miri thought that like you were being basically, I guess, led on or being set up by Phil. At the same time, I'm glad things worked out. You are in a better place and you're actually not associating with Phil or Jenny or anybody like that, and you're getting back into DMing and stuff and wanting to play and stuff, and I think that's cool. But at the end of the day, you also got to make sure you look out for red flags, and Phil is a major red flag. If you find somebody like that that's like Phil, basically just avoid them. Don't interact with them. Don't do anything with them. And don't let them basically bully you around, because I think what Phil did here is basically bullying, if not abuse. Is it abuse? I guess it's abuse in some way. Anyway, Phil is just not a great person.
Wait, but you bully me? So does that mean I can leave?
No, you can't leave. You're stuck in my games forever. I think I killed Mary. And with that, that's all the stories for today. Thank you guys so much for watching the stories. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you had a blast.
If you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. This has been Tales Tomorrow with Mary, who's very dead right now.
Whoa.
Leave a message after the beep.
She's not dead, she's tired. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Bye.
Bye.